Too often, despite extensive and expensive efforts to render the body fit for public display, the dead aren't pleasant to look at. They don't look very natural. This is always due to various reasons. Immediately after death, the body undergoes several natural changes that drastically alter its appearance. It becomes very pale and very cold. Its muscles become sunken and flaccid. It becomes unfamiliarly static and expressionless, and the chemicals used for embalming change the skin's texture and color, making it look repulsively ghost-like. The smell and look of death is naturally offensive, threatening even. With the above, we are bound to pick up the wrong corpse at the morgue once in a while, especially those city morgues that handle averagely over 50 bodies daily. Welcome to Invisible Dimensions, where we share our mystical, supernatural, and paranormal encounters. Daisy had barely been in Nairobi for 5 months. She was still learning to navigate the streets when she was fatally hit by a motorcycle. Her uncle Siluma, a brother to her late father, had been hosting her all this while. She had been looking for her own place though, before her young life was tragically cut short. On the morning she died, she was in the company of her cousin Ileana, walking to the affluent suburbs to go and look for a clothes washing job. After finishing high school, she had not been able to pursue higher education for lack of school fees. Her poor mother could not afford to feed her younger siblings, pay for their basic education, and at the same time take her to college. Daisy had instead eagerly moved to the city to look for menial jobs and help her mother. She had hoped to get a job as a house girl, but she wasn't lucky. She had instead taken on day house cleaning jobs, clothes washing, cooking, and any other chores that came up. She was doing this under the tutelage of Eliana, her first cousin, a daughter to his uncle Siluma. Having grown up in Nairobi, Ileana knew the city like the back of her hand. Just like Daisy, Ileana did not proceed to college after high school. She had immediately taken after her mother in doing menial jobs for the rich. They would walk daily, very early in the morning, before dawn, from Kibra slums where they lived to the posh estates. If they were lucky to find the jobs, they would board a matatu back in the evening. If they weren't lucky, they would trek back. Therefore, there had been no question of what Daisy wanted to do as soon as she joined them from upcountry. Cleaning up people's homes was like a family business until this fateful day when Daisy died. An ambulance had been called, hoping that maybe she was still alive. But her body had been taken directly to the city mortuary instead. It was upon Siluma to ensure his late brother's child's body reached home in Western. After all, it was him who had called Daisy to Nairobi so that she could fend for her aging widowed mother. Siluma worked as a loader in an Indian's hardware shop. His job entailed loading and unloading countless bags of cement off trucks, iron sheets, boxes of tiles, amongst other bulky and heavy items. He barely made enough to pay rent for his family, educate them, feed them, clothe them, amongst other necessities. He was up to his neck in loans from his employer when this calamity struck. He therefore had no other place he could borrow from. Siluma was lucky to have been active in local politics. The office of his MP in Nairobi offered to support him with a coffin, while the office of his rural MP offered to provide a van to transport the body back home to the village. He now remained with other expenses like the mortuary fees, clothes for the deceased, and food for mourners who came to condole with them daily. Friends and family arranged for a funds drive, but the money collected was barely enough to cover all the expenses. Siluma was therefore relieved when a workmate of his, sympathizing with his situation, offered to introduce him to one of the attendants at the city mortuary, with whom they were acquainted. The attendant agreed to help them sneak out Daisy's body at a quarter the required fee paid off the books. The day did come when Daisy's body was to be removed from the mortuary and transported home. Siluma and about 8 other family members were at the city mortuary by 5 in the morning. They had been afraid their guy, the mortuary attendant, would not show, but he was present. By 6 in the morning, they had already been given the body and loaded it onto the van. They did everything in haste for fear of being found out. When Siluma's wife insisted on checking out the body in the coffin, Siluma shut her up, explaining that they risked being found out. Furthermore, their mortuary attendant guy had already confirmed the previous evening. Siluma himself and the 2 other relatives did view the body through the glass in the casket and confirmed it to be Daisy. They exited the mortuary precinct when it was still dark. The 9-hour journey to Western had been uneventful. They arrived at the rural home just before dusk. The whole village was waiting for them. It was a somber mood. People sympathized with Domitila, Daisy's mother. Her husband had passed just a few years back, and now their firstborn child was no more. It was the little money Daisy had been making washing people's clothes that fended for Domitila's whole household. With a rope tied tightly around her stomach, Domitila wailed uncontrollably, a few friends holding her down to prevent her from hurting herself. Energetic young men came forward to help carry the body from the van. It was customarily mandatory for the body to be taken inside the house first for a few minutes before being taken back outside, where it would stay all through till the burial. The young men placed the casket in the living room. The wailing died down as a church elder prayed for the body. The casket was then taken back outside and opened for the people to view. By then, it was fairly dark. The people present made a straight line to be able to view the body in an organized manner to pay their last respects. "She looks so different. You can't even tell it's Daisy," a cousin exclaimed. "She has really changed." "She must change," another cousin explained. "You can imagine staying in the ice-cold fridge for over 2 weeks. Someone's features are bound to change." "Yes," yet another affirmed. "Then there is the embalming. Those toxic chemicals they use leave bodies looking really unnatural, like ghosts." By then, Domitila, Daisy's mother, had just been wailing, but was yet to set eyes on her. People made room for her as she was guided towards the casket. She leaned forward and looked keenly, straining in the dim light. "This is not Daisy," she exclaimed loudly amidst tears, looking around. "Who is this? This is not my daughter." "I thought so too," someone supported. Then another and another and another joined in. The line for viewing that had been organized and orderly now broke. A crowd formed at once and surged forward. Everyone was eager to see all at once. Shouting broke out. Many people now confidently affirmed that was not Daisy. Siluma, who had been standing on the sidelines, came forward and tried to hush the noisy crowd. "What are you people saying?" Siluma shouted, struggling to be heard over the noise. "This is Daisy. Look properly." "No, surely you would trust me to know my own daughter," Domitilla resolutely insisted. "Woman, shut up," Siluma hissed at her, giving her a snide look. "The least you can do is be grateful that we've managed to bring this body home, all the way from Nairobi, under very heavy financial constraints." "But you can see for yourself," Domitilla tried to protest. "Daisy didn't have a..." "Domitilla, shut your mouth or I will shut it for you," Siluma cut her short. "Such an ingrate. Come, look at this body properly. Look, is this not Daisy?" "Let's open the casket and inspect the whole body," one of the women holding Domitilla suggested, to the excitement of the rowdy crowd. "Open the casket, search the whole body," the crowd chanted. "There is nothing you will achieve by doing that. What do you want to prove?" Siluma, exasperated, tried to calm the uncontrollable crowd. The crowd remained adamant. The casket was opened and Domitilla ordered to inspect the body. As she lifted the corpse dress up to inspect the thighs downwards, she was met with the shock of a lifetime. A baby had been placed in between Daisy's thighs. Domitilla and the other people who saw it recoiled in shock. "What is a dead baby doing in between Daisy's thighs?" Domitilla asked, astounded. "My daughter was not pregnant, was she?" The baby's presence took even the defiant Siluma by surprise. If there had been a need for any confirmation that this corpse was not Daisy, then the presence of the baby was it. Culturally, when a pregnant woman died before due date for delivery, the baby would usually be removed from the mother's tummy and be placed in between the mother's thighs. Whilst the baby could not be buried separately because its date to be born had not been due yet, it was taboo for a dead pregnant woman to be buried with the baby inside her. They would mandatorily be cut open and the babies removed. Deep down his heart, Siluma knew Daisy had not been pregnant when she died. After all, Daisy had been living under his roof. His hawk-eyed wife could have noticed if Daisy had been pregnant. So this confirmed the gathering's fear that Daisy's body was still in Nairobi. Siluma's brain, working fast, made quick mental calculations. The cost implication of taking this stranger's body back to Nairobi and bringing back the correct one was mind-boggling. Leave alone all the planning that had gone into it, the permits required, the church booking and payments, local government and administration, friends and relatives from far off, all converging together. Cancelling the funeral would be insane. "Of course, Daisy was pregnant. You didn't know?" Siluma shouted, appearing confident, looking Domitilla in the eyes. "When she left here for Nairobi, she was already pregnant. But all these months, we have been talking. You never said anything," Domitilla questioned, astonished. "Neither you, nor your wife, nor even Daisy herself brought it up. We just didn't want to burden you with worries," Siluma said offhandedly, reassuring her. "We made the decision to protect you." Domitilla did not look convinced. She had more questions, but from Siluma's threatening look, she decided to drop it. That is what poverty does to someone. It takes away your ability to make choices. Deep down, though Domitilla knew the corpse before her was not Daisy, she had no power to do anything about it. There was money involved, and she had nothing to her name. That was a Thursday evening. There was a wake in Daisy's honor. People whispered, but no one dared to openly raise the concern. The whole day Friday, friends and relatives who lived far kept trooping to the home to pay their last respects. There was another wake on Friday night. The burial was slated for Saturday. It came and went without incident. The burial went smoothly. Daisy was buried in front of the house, as was tradition, a short distance from his father's grave. Domitilla and her remaining children were slowly coming to terms with Daisy's death. They were starting to make peace with it. They had gone ahead and performed the required rites and rituals immediately days after the burial. Then one evening, about 2 weeks after the burial, Domitilla was stunned to see a police Land Cruiser pull up in her compound. Down disembarked 2 police officers and the area chief. "Madam, we are here to let you know that you buried the wrong body," the chief said after exchanging pleasantries. By then, a crowd had already gathered. Of course, deep down, Domitilla had known this, but she had wishfully hoped that it was indeed Daisy they had buried that day. "I don't understand," Domitilla stammered. "The body you buried here is for Daisy Oma, a lady from Siaya. Your daughter, Daisy Habesa, is still lying in the morgue in Nairobi," the chief explained. "There was a mix-up the day the body was picked. When the owners of this body buried here in your home recently went to the morgue to pick it up, they were astonished to find it missing. After intense scrutiny and searching, they managed to trace the body to your home, so they want their kin." Domitilla could only gasp. Overwhelmed, she felt weighed down. She said nothing. By then, Siluma and his family had already gone back to the city. "Madam, you don't have to worry," the chief said kindly, sensing Domitilla's panic. "The family of Daisy Oma will cover all the expenses. They will transport your daughter's body up to here, pay for the exhumation, and bury her in this same grave." Domitilla sighed with relief. On the day of the exhumation, Domitilla's home was overwhelmingly full. It was a spectacle. None of the people gathered had ever witnessed a body being exhumed before. As young men dug up the body, countless police officers stood on guard, controlling the surging crowd. Finally, Domitilla got the chance to hold her daughter Daisy's hand and bid her farewell. As she was being transferred into the coffin in which our Daisy had been lying in. Side by side, momentarily, just before they swapped resting places, the 2 Daisies got to meet. Daisy Oma, having been exhumed, and Daisy Habesa, waiting patiently to go into the very same grave. 2 women who had never met in this life got to meet and make friends at the graveside, and most probably into the afterlife. So, the next time you pick up a deceased loved one at the morgue, be careful to pick the correct body. Thank you for watching this video. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share to help us grow.